So we're bringing on Mr. Dan Geltrude from Nutley, New Jersey. Dan, thanks for coming on. I'll give you your shot at what you think that deal compromises. But I tell you what, full disclosure, I went away Friday thinking, what could they possibly get done? Now, they didn't both call each other and plan to meet in Switzerland. It was one of those, China was already there, and oh, by the way, we might be in the area. Do you think it'd be okay if we got together kind of a deal? It wasn't one of those big things where they both planned to be somewhere neutral and hammer out a deal. So I had no expectations.
Well, I don't know about that, Scott, because I don't believe in coincidences or that things are random. But that aside, I'm glad they ended up crossing paths over the weekend. So let's break this down. First of all, I think it's a positive that they're having this tariff pause because it gives some breathing room here. It allows everyone to reassess without losing face, right? Because they just happen to meet up. I think it's a positive, as you mentioned, about the economic decoupling being off the table, right? Because you have supply chain at risk, you have the investors, you have multinational businesses, so if you talk about a complete decoupling of these two economies, that's not a small thing. That's a major economic ripple worldwide. Now, I do like the fact also that, look, if China is not going to hold up its end of the bargain here, which we never know what they're going to do, they're not exactly a reliable partner to have, we go right back to the April 2nd levels of tariffs. We use that as leverage, and we see what plays out from there. I also think, related to the fentanyl and trade being linked together for the first time, I think that is huge because that is showing the U.S. using the tariffs in a very targeted way to put, through economic pressure to help us resolve this drug problem.
And the drug problem, not only in fentanyl, but also there was an announcement earlier today about drug prices, and he's going to bring those down. President Trump said that there's going to be a market reduction in those prices. But using trade to force people to play ball in that arena, too, is going to be something new that we have never done before.
Yeah, and look, what's going to be interesting about that, too? This has been one of the key things that the Democrat Party has been talking about in terms of cost of prescription drugs. So now, if Donald Trump is focusing in on that and able to do something, will he actually have support from the Democrats to say, okay, good one, we agree with that? I somehow think there'll be a spin on that.
Yes.
As to why it wasn't the right thing. But certainly that's a big move by Trump because prescription prices are really outrageous, Scott. And now I'm all for free market and capitalism, but I think that's one of the areas where maybe it's gone a little bit too far.
And we've been subsidizing the world, and they went into it, and I'm going to maybe save that for tomorrow. But it was good to see that he was willing to use trade to put a little muscle behind what he was, putting out there as far as that executive order. Another thing that I'm not happy about, though, Dan, is the fact that we have to deal with China in the first place. I don't trust them. I don't like what they do to intellectual property rights. They steal between $500 million and $1 trillion a year from U.S. companies that do work over there. I don't like the fact that we've got some banks like J.P. Morgan that have integrated themselves in China. We list a lot of the Chinese stocks. They're just so big. They've got a lot of natural resources. But for I don't know how many years, a long time, over hundreds of years, they have not been a good actor. They've been a bad actor. And so we're kind of being forced by our parents to play with this guy we don't like in the sandbox, right? That's how I feel about it. And I don't like it. I'd rather not have to play with them, but I get you have to recognize the market. But I'm really looking forward to the day when India can take over a lot of what China's been doing the last 20 years.
Well, I think India has some extraordinary opportunities here to be able to replace China in many, many ways, manufacturing and in other things. And the other thing that we have to address with China, and really it's what you're saying, is in many ways, China is actually lawless. Now, it doesn't mean that they don't have laws, but on the international level, Scott, there's no international court, shall we say, to be able to bring them to justice. So that's why I say they act in a lawless fashion on the global stage, because they're like, well, we'll do whatever we want and try to hold our feet to the fire. But what Donald Trump has done here, like it or not, is he has held their feet to the fire, not using, and it's a good thing, not using the military, but using our economic might. So, I mean, Trump has a chance to really be an historic president if he can get this to turn out the right way.
Yeah, I mean, you're exactly right about, how they act, because one thing what came to mind when you were talking there is we can't even get after him for what happened over COVID. I mean, if we can't get, which was to me blatantly obvious, I think it is to the rest of the world as well. Even every day that goes by, it gets more and more obvious. If we can't really blame, if we can't get behind that and get on, it's going to be hard to get a lot of these other things too. So it'll be interesting to see how this all plays out. Obviously, this is day one. There might be a little bit of an irrational exuberance in the markets here today. Who knows? I wouldn't be surprised if we did peel back a little bit for the rest of the week. But when the biggest one falls, a lot of times the smaller ones come along right behind. What do you think about that real quick? 10 seconds.
I do, Scott, because I think China is exerting pressure on other countries not to play ball. So if China does play ball, I think the dominoes can start to fall in getting the tariff situation straightened out.
All right. Great stuff as usual. We're going to be talking about this for a long time, I think. Thank you very much, Dan. Dan Geltrude comes from Nutley, New Jersey. Thanks.